Okay, we're going to do the opposite direction of these loans payables this time, and hopefully it'll go a lot faster, smoother, more understandable than the last time. And if you put the two together, then maybe you'll just be ready for some kind of medication to help take care of your troubles. Okay, here we go. In this case, the subsidiary, when they took out the loan, the rates were high. Interest rate was high. So they could only borrow so much. They could borrow 100. Today, at the acquisition date, the date of acquisition, call it DOA. I know what that stands for. Date of acquisition. It actually stands for something else, but as well, not in the accounting sense. But on date of acquisition, for the same loan terms, same amount of payments they're making per month, the number of months it's taking them to pay it, and the interest rate they got, we could have gotten more money. We could have gotten a higher, what we call present value, or a higher loan amount. So on the date of acquisition, we're basically telling them, hey, this loan you got, you really should have been able to borrow 140, and you didn't, because when you borrowed, you didn't have as good at terms. The market rates were different. Today's rates, we could have borrowed 140 for those same terms. So because interest rates have changed. So what we're saying to them is, when we go to do the purchase price, it'll work like this. It'll say, your assets, let's do it like this, book value, fair value. Your assets on your books is that, and they're really worth 120. Your intangibles, call them intans, are 0, but you got goodwill. It's worth 40. However, with your loans, you got a book value of that, but that's really what it's costing us, 140. So this is what we're going to pay you. We got 20 there above your book value. We're going to pay you above your book value plus 20. You got 40 here above your book value. We're going to add to your book value plus 40. But you know what? This one here is not as good. Sad face, see? This is not as good. So we don't want to pay for the economic climate when you took out the loan. We want a discount on the purchase price. So now, instead of paying 60 plus book value, they'll pay 60 minus 40. That's exactly what's going to happen. So 60 minus 40 is they're going to pay 20 above book value. I'm just giving you sample negotiations and what it looks like when these things are done. But the upshot is they were able to reduce their purchase price when they bought it by the differential found in the loan here. That's the important point. And that differential is 40 due to the loan, and it's a negative 40 in the purchase price, meaning it reduced the purchase price. So let's see what that means. If it reduced the purchase price, when you go to book the differential, so we had a plus 20 for the assets, we had a plus 40 for the goodwill, and a minus 40 for the loan. So one way of looking at it is to follow what I said in class, and that is just do the opposite. So if these are debits in the consolidation work paper, to increase the assets by 20, to increase the intangibles by 40. So here, this is a loan payable, and it's going the other way. It's reducing the purchase price, and so we just do the opposite of what we would have done for the assets, in which case we credit it. Now, that makes it look a little funny when we actually look at the consolidation work paper. Consider this as part of the acquisition balance sheet for the consolidation. So let's see what it looks like. You got the subs numbers here, and you've got the debits and the credits to get to consolidation. So the sub numbers on the assets is, let's say, let's do this. The assets are one number, and we're going to increase that by 20. Then they got intangibles, or they don't even have it on the books, the intans, but we're going to increase that by 40. So far we're doing good. This is the increase from the sub's book value. Then when it comes to the loan, since it reduced the purchase price, remember this is an increase in price, but the loan was discounted, I suppose you could say. Maybe that's the wrong wording, but we reduced our price because of the terms of the loan. So if we reduced our price in terms of the loan, instead of a debit, it's going to be a credit. The result is that on the books of the sub, they're going to have the loan at 100, but for consolidated, it's going to show up at 140. Now we're just going to do the opposite with this over the life, the number of years. We'll do the opposite, amortization. In this case, we're going to add depreciation. And in this case, we're going to reduce. See if you know what we're going to reduce. Anxiety. That's right. We're going to reduce anxiety. Interest expense. Reduce interest expense. Let's see. Let's go to the end of the first year. What we just saw was the first year. If you're not sure, go back and look at it and pretend that's the first year, not only the first year, but the date of acquisition. Hold on 1 second. Okay, so I got interrupted here by some students. Can you believe that? Can you believe it? Terrible. I don't know why students are interested in learning at all. Anyway, back to the job at hand. So what's going on here then is we are recording the loan principal, we're actually recording the reduction of the purchase price in the loan payable on the subsidiaries books. That's really what's going on here. And that's why it's a credit, so that the result is that the loan balance for the consolidated is higher since it helped reduce the purchase price. These, as an example, we were doing it, these increased purchase price when we looked at the differential between book and fair value. This particular set of circumstances with the loan actually reduced the purchase price because the terms of the loan are disfavorable at the time of the acquisition. All right, so that's great. That explains how it happened. Now, what do we do about it? Well, we've seen part of what we do about it. We increase the consolidation's value of the loan to this market value of the loan, 140. And then in future years, because there's no life to this, we have a number of years, some number of years, X. And over those number of years, we're going to do like the opposite of what the first video did. In this case, we're going to every year debit the loan payable for, and if it's $40,000 over, let's say, 8 years, so $5K a year. And you should already be able to figure out where I'm going with this credit. That's right, it's the interest expense. So every year the interest expense for the consolidation gets reduced. After all, what's going on is that the interest expense on the books of the subsidiary is higher because those rates were higher at that time. So their interest expense is being overstated because their rates were higher compared to today. That's the whole reason why we paid them less, because those are unfavorable interest rates. So we're reducing their interest expense by that amount. And since the consolidated loan payable total is higher, we got to add to the amortization of the principal over the life of the loan by increasing, this is sort of increasing the payments made on the loan. And it works out, again, back to the worksheet, the work paper is the way it will work out. In year 2, that's what we want to take a look at. In year 2, what's happening is in year 2, the subsidiary will show like 90 now left on the loan, let's say, or yeah, let's do year 2. Let's say they show like, let's make it even probably more correct. They show 80 as the loan payable. So in year 2, we've already taken the 40 differential and we've already reduced it by 5 at the end of year 1. So to get the right opening balance for year 2, we're looking at a 35, so 35 comes over here, and the consolidated will then be whatever that is, 80 plus 35, so that's 100. Was that 115? Do I have that right? If I haven't already embarrassed myself in class, I wouldn't bother doing it this way. But since I already embarrassed myself in class, so it's 115. Okay. That's what's going on. So every year thereafter, we adjust the consolidated opening amount based on the prior amortization, just like we did in the opposite approach in the first video. We do the same here in the opposite way. So year 3, this number would be 30. And then in year 4, and that's probably a good exercise to just play this out over the life of the years, because you'll find by year 8 the number comes down to 0. And we fully amortized the loan both for the subsidiaries books here and the consolidated books over here. Everybody, by the time the end of the year 8 comes along, the loan balance on the subsidiary is 0, and the loan balance is 0 for the consolidated. So that's at the end of year 8, which is exactly what you would expect to happen. Okay, that's pretty much it. Don't forget that the interest expense is reduced in this case. The opposite situation, interest expense, is increased. The opposite part of the entry is to loan payable. If you have any questions, send them to me in an email, and maybe I'll make a further clarification through yet another famous video explaining things that I don't understand. All right, talk to you later.